Hello, and welcome to English for Vietnamese Speakers. I'm Lance, and in this video, a continuation of the X sound in English, we're going to work on some pronunciation exercises and drills to help you improve your pronunciation of the X sound. If you haven't already, I suggest you watch the first part of this video, which is the instructional part, linked in the comments below. First, let's take the word box. Box. And I encourage you to pause the video. I'll say the words at least 2 times. So I'll say it, you could pause the video. You're not going to learn the mechanics of how to say these sounds and make these sounds unless you actually physically speak the sounds. You can't practice in your head because you need to train your muscles, your throat, your tongue, your lips, your teeth, your mouth, in how to make these sounds. So I encourage you to pause the video. If you can, if you have your phone, pause the video, make a recording of yourself so you can hear how you're saying. And for especially other sounds, such as the TH sound, record to make sure you're making the sounds properly, and things like putting your tongue between your teeth for the TH sound that you're doing these. So it helps to record video and audio to help you improve your pronunciation of these sounds. So one more time. Box. Box. And you really need to lengthen that sound out. You need to make it stronger than you're used to. Your brain is going to tell you that it's too long, it's too loud, because you've trained as Vietnamese speakers to speak very subtly, to have some very subtle sounds, and you can hear it. And your Vietnamese friends, when you talk to them, you can hear and understand each other, but we can't as English speakers. So you need to make these sounds longer and louder so that we English speakers who don't have such sensitive ears as you Vietnamese speakers do can actually hear you making the sounds. So one more time. Box. Box. Okay? Number 2, fix. Fix. And as we've already worked on the B and the F, make sure you're pronouncing those correctly. The F is unvoiced. Okay? One more at the end for the KS sound. Mix. Mix. And again, you really need to overemphasize these sounds when you're working on improving your pronunciation. So make them louder and longer. 1, so that you train yourself, you train your mouth to be able to make these sounds better. And 2, so that we can hear you. As you're working on developing your pronunciation, if you just speak longer, make the sounds longer, and make them a bit louder than you're comfortable making, then you'll be better understood. Okay, let's try a couple in the middle of the word. And these also are interesting because some of them go straight into consonant sounds. So really, you end up with a 3-consonant cluster here. So let's try text. So that's a hard T on the end, which is going to be challenging for you as Vietnamese speakers. Again, you don't have that hard release T at the end. And having the K, the S, and the T makes it especially challenging. So let's try it one more time. Text. Really practice on releasing that T. Text. Okay? And then even more complicated, texts, the plural of text. So then we add an S. So you get the K, the S, the T, followed by a final S. Texts. Texts. Okay? Let's try another one. Foxes. And I know as Vietnamese speakers, you have challenges with these S's at the end, especially the double S sounds. So really listen, there are 2 S's at the end. One comes from the X, fox, and then we do the plural is. Fox is. That final S, if you listen closely, has more of a Z sound. It's not fox S, it's fox es. You have to voice that final S. Okay, let's work on some of the GZ sounds. Now, most of these are EX at the beginnings of words. So if you see an EX at the beginning, it's most likely going to have this hard GZ sound. Okay? Number one, example. Example. And again, I really want you to overemphasize and try to lengthen that out as much as you can. And add a little bit more volume to it, add a little bit more oomph to it so that you're better understood. Exact. And that's going to be a bit tough because you have the GZ sound at the beginning, and then you have the CT sound at the end. One more time. Exact. Exact. And if it sounds like I'm saying E-G-G-Z, that is close. Again, the X in this case is making a GZ sound. So if you think of eggs, I eat eggs for breakfast. If you can say eggs, then you can make the GZ sound that the X letter makes. One more. Exam. Exam. And again, we're overemphasizing here to train our muscles, to train our mouth when the brain signals the X sound to, like we would if we were training for a sport or if we were an athlete. If you were a runner, you overtrain. You train your body that when you're tired, you can keep going. And it's this muscle memory that allows athletes to do that. We have to develop that muscle memory for our mouths when we're speaking different languages so that we can retrain our brains from the way it was wired when we were growing up and learning our first language to the new language. All right, and just a couple of examples of the Z. Xerox. Xerox. And xylophone. Xylophone. Not a lot of words with X at the beginning, but there are a few, and so it's important to understand that when you see the X at the beginning, probably a Z sound. All right, let's work on some sentence practices. Now, these will incorporate some SH sounds, some of the other sounds that we've worked on. So again, as you're working through these sentences, really focus on the B's, the S's, the SH. Make sure you're not adding an S if one isn't there. Make sure that you're pronouncing the S's if they are there. Okay? Number one, she will exit the exact building next. One more time. She will exit the exact building next. Bit of a tongue twister, but a lot of good X sounds in there. And make sure you focus on the SH, on the she. Okay? Number two, the box next to the exit is extremely heavy. One more time. The box next to the exit is extremely heavy. Okay? Extremely can also be pronounced with more of a KS sound. This is a bit of an exception. As I've said, there are always exceptions in English. Different dialects, people from the UK or from Australia may pronounce it a bit differently. So there are differences. But yes, that extremely can sound more of a KS if spoken quickly. Not to confuse, but wanted to make that note in case you thought that that sounded a bit strange. And one more. He passed the exam with excellent marks. He passed the exam with excellent marks. And if you see that ED on the end of passed and wonder why it doesn't sound like an ED, it does make a T sound. Sometimes the ED can take on a T sound at the ends of words. And if you also noticed, excellent isn't excellent. It is the KS sound. The EX here makes the KS sound. Again, English is full of exceptions. Sorry about that. But yes, that's what makes English so difficult for people coming from other languages, especially from Vietnamese, where when you see something written, it's very clear how to pronounce it. Modern written Vietnamese was created to reflect the spoken Vietnamese language. There aren't a lot of exceptions to rules. And I know this makes it frustrating for you as Vietnamese speakers trying to learn to pronounce English sounds. I'm sorry. Yeah, it is difficult. I can empathize with you about that. So that's it for the X sounds. The sounds themselves aren't particularly problematic for you as Vietnamese speakers, but putting those two consonant sounds together can be tricky. And then recognizing that the X does not make the same sound in English as it does in Vietnamese, and that we have three different distinct sounds that the letter X can make. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.